I'm going to hand it over to Vadim, our CEO here at Nerdio, and let's get started.
Thank you, Natasha, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to join us today to talk about applications and managing applications. I'm really looking forward to sharing with you some of the new technology that Nerdio has created, and we're going to be officially launching in just a couple of weeks at the NerdioCon conference, which we'll talk about towards the end of our time together here. And I'm excited to share with you some of these hands-on examples of what application management will look like for MSPs managing their customer environments. This will be somewhat of a hands-on session. So hopefully you have a Windows machine with a administrative PowerShell window that you can open side by side. As you are following with me on the screen, we'll have a few commands to run along the way to get familiar with some of the concepts. And then I guess I'll spend most of my time in the demo showing you the technology, although I do want to introduce it with some slides. So as Natasha mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to put those into the chat box, and Tony and Natasha will be able to address those as they come up. And then we'll also save some time towards the end of the webinar to take your questions live and talk about anything else that you may have on your mind. So with that, let's get started with talking about applications. So the first thing I wanted to kind of remind everyone who may not be familiar with Nerdio, but Nerdio's mission is all about empowering MSPs to build successful cloud practices with the Microsoft Cloud. And this covers both Azure and Microsoft 365, Intune, and all the various components of the Microsoft Cloud. So you'll see over time, every month or so, Nerdio doing a new release of our product that includes more and more functionality, all aimed at making you, the MSP, more efficient, more successful, more profitable in managing your cloud practice in the Microsoft Cloud. The focus of today's discussion is going to be specifically on applications. And let's start out with sort of what problem are we out there to solve? What are we trying to achieve here? And if we talk about how MSPs typically install applications, and maybe Tony, you can put some of these options in the chat, and people can like them to indicate how many are doing which. But typically, applications are the reason why your users have computers, right? That's the reason why somebody logs into their machine. It's really to run a set of applications to get their work done. And installing and updating applications has never been a very straightforward thing to do. And it's done in very different ways depending on what your processes look like. This could be installing from a website, having a folder on your server where you're hosting the repository of the various installers, using application management platforms like Chocolatey or Ninite, using your RMM, Intune, and many, many other different ways of doing that. The challenging part specifically for MSPs, beyond what a typical customer may run into when managing the application installation and updates, is that you're managing lots of different customers and you're maintaining pretty much similar or same type of applications across the board. And this ends up being a pretty time-consuming task where you have to maintain the most recent version of the app, and have to save it or upload it to individual customers' file server, and then go into each one of their machines and update it on that machine, or do so through your RMM. But the process is fairly complex and not very automated. And now, with the addition of various virtual endpoints, in addition to the physical ones, in addition to your PCs and laptops, and mobile devices, you now have VDI, you have Azure Virtual Desktop, you have cloud PCs, lots of different endpoints, lots of different applications, and different ways of delivering these applications. So one thing that I wanted to start out with in our lab that we'll do in just a minute is introducing the concept of Windget. Many of you are probably already well familiar with Windget, also known as the Windows Package Manager. But I'll just give a quick introduction, and we'll go through a handful of hands-on examples here. So Windget is a Microsoft first-party technology that is integrated into every version of Windows, starting with Windows 10 build 1709. So it's been around for a long time. It's built into Windows. It's completely agentless, meaning there's nothing to install. There are no third-party components that are necessary for Windget to work. It can use a very broad range of application repositories, including things like the Microsoft Store, a community repository of Windget, which we'll get into more detail, your own private custom repository of apps. And because it's built in and part of every Windows 10, Windows 11 operating system, it really is an easy way to manage, upgrade, install, and uninstall your applications. Now, why would somebody use Windget? As we mentioned, it's fast, it's native. There is repositories that are managed by other vendors that keep updating their own applications that you have access to, so you don't have to manage many of the standard off-the-shelf products that are out there. And it really makes it very easy to deploy things to individual machines, including publishing your own applications. Now, if we take a look at sort of the architecture of Windget and what does it do and how it works. So think of Windget as basically a client component that can interact with various types of repositories. And the way that a repository works is it contains an application manifest. An application manifest is basically a set of text fields that tell Windget how to get and install that application. So the Windget repository doesn't actually store the binaries for the app. The binaries can live somewhere else, for example, on the publisher's website, but it stores the manifest of the application and tells the Windget client, which is part of every Windows 10 and Windows 11, where to find the application, how to install it, how to uninstall it, how to upgrade it, etc. It's a fairly simple sort of set of commands. You can see there aren't that many commands that are necessary to work with Windget. And we're going to spend the next few minutes just to give you an example of how Windget works within an operating system. And in order to do that, if you want to kind of play along here and follow along, go ahead and launch a PowerShell session. Make sure you're running it as an admin. And I'm going to open up my VM here. Let's do this. And we're going to do some of these commands together. So the first thing is let's make sure, like, hey, can I run Windget with an info switch? And what this will do is it will show me the current version of Windget that I'm running. It will also show me all the various locations where applications are going to be installed by default, depending on the type of application it is. And this is all out of the box. I didn't have to make any changes. It also will show me the various links to the different repositories that I can pull applications from. So that's that info command. The next command, which is going to show me the list of sources, is what we want. So let's do Windget. Let's type in Windget source list. And in my source list, you'll see I have two repositories. Again, this is all out of the box. I didn't make any changes prior to this. We have the Microsoft Store, as well as the Windget, what's called the community repository. And this repository is super powerful because it's huge. There's many thousands of applications, and these applications are maintained by the publishers themselves. So if you want to get, VLC or Adobe Reader or any Microsoft app, you'll find it in the Windget community repository with multiple versions. You'll see the latest version as well as all the prior versions. And as we get more into the Nerdio technology that uses Windget, as you can guess, which is why the reason we're going through Windget, you'll see exactly how that works. So that shows us our list of sources. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to run this command right here, which is going to be Windget search. And after search, we can put in a string to find some sort of an application. So it can match the string that you've searched for, both in the name of the application as well as its description. And you can see I've searched in Teams, and I'm finding that Teams is available in the Microsoft Store. This is a Microsoft maintained repository of first-party applications, but you will also see that there's going to be various versions of Teams and other applications with Teams in the name that are in the community Windget repository as well. The next thing is we're going to go ahead and type in Windget upgrade. And Windget upgrade will show me a list of applications that are installed on my computer. And it will show me the version that's currently installed versus the version that's available for upgrade. So you can run this. If you run this on your machine, you should see a list of apps and see which apps have more current versions of the application that you may want to upgrade. And you can also list all of your currently installed applications by just doing Windget list. And Windget list is going to give me all the apps installed on this machine. And the great thing is it's going to show me both apps that were installed through Windget, as well as apps that were installed in any other method as well. And this is, again, a good way to get an idea of what's loaded on the machine. And then finally, the last thing I'm going to show you with Windget is the ability to upgrade all of your applications. So first of all, let's see, if we go back to the upgrade screen here and we run Windget upgrade. So it looks like in my list, I have 6 upgrades available. Let's see in the chat what the highest numbers look like. Type in the highest numbers of apps that are available for upgrade for you, and we'll see who wins that contest. And then the final thing, no, my Alexa is talking to me. Let's do Windget upgrade all. And I'm actually not going to do that on my machine right now, but I want to show you conceptually what you can do is you can actually have Windget go through the list of applications that need an upgrade and upgrade every single one to the latest version that's available in your Windget sources, which in my case are just at Microsoft Store and the Windget community repository. So Windget is a great new technology for Microsoft, built into Windows. No third-party agents are required. Really easy to use at the command prompt. But obviously, this is on a per-machine basis and is not something that you're actually going to be doing, right? I mean, that's not a scalable way and not an efficient way to manage anything on a per-customer basis or at the global MSP level across multiple customers. And this is really the problem that Nerdio aims to solve is we want to provide the MSP with a single approach for app management. And the way that works is having a purpose-built solution that's designed for MSPs, powered by existing technology that's already built into every customer environment without having to add any third-party technology, without having to add any agents, any new proprietary formats, any new repository and manifest formats, using all the native Microsoft provided technologies, but making them easy to use at scale, which is what you're going to see in just a couple of minutes. So let's look at it at a high level as to what this does. So if you envision having all the various repositories that could possibly store your applications, whether those are private repositories, similar to how you have a file share right now with certain applications on a per customer basis, a community repository from Windget, where all vendors put their applications there. And like I said, there's many thousands of apps. I'm not sure what the latest count is. The Microsoft first party apps, Intune that you may already have uploaded apps to, SCCM or Microsoft Config Manager, and third-party repositories as well, Chocolatey and others. Imagine having all of those aggregated with a single unified app management overlay, single UI, that sits at the MSP level of your practice, not at an individual customer level, but sits at a global level across all of your customers, where you're able to take applications from any of these sources and assign and deploy and update them or upgrade them across any or all of your customers in a very flexible, policy-driven kind of way. And that is where Nerdio's unified app management comes in. So let's first take a look at kind of what this looks like architecturally and what the terminology is. So we already mentioned the concept of a repository, right? The repository is just a place to store your applications. Applications typically have two pieces to it. There is the manifest that contains the instructions on how to install the app, and then the binaries. The binaries could be in Azure Blob Storage, they could be on a publisher's website, they could be on a file share, they could be in many different places. Then all of this information from across all of your repositories at the global MSP level. So for those of you familiar with Nerdio Manager for MSP, you know there's the global MSP level where you can see all of your customer accounts, and then you can drill in and go into an individual customer account and actually do management at the customer level as well. So at the global MSP level, you're going to see an exposed view of all applications from all sorts of repositories, default ones, as well as ones you can add in a custom way. Once you see those applications, you can choose to assign those applications to individual customers or all customers, which makes them available for deployment at an individual customer level. And then once they're in the individual customer level, you can deploy them to various types of what we call targets. There could be AVD targets, so things like session host, individual machines or personal desktops, the host pool, which is containing all session hosts in that particular host pool, images, server VMs, Windows 365 cloud PCs, physical devices, or mobile devices. All of those are fair targets to deliver any of these applications to those levels. Now, there's two ways that you'll see there you can deliver the application. You can deliver it on demand, meaning you can say, I'm going to click a button right now and deliver this application to these users across these customers on these types of targets. Or you can do so in the policy-driven way. And obviously, in the policy-driven way allows you to enable automation where it's always keeping your apps updated. It's always installing the correct version. It's making sure that when a new user joins the organization and they get a mobile device or they get a physical PC or a virtual machine, that the application gets deployed to them directly. So what you're going to be seeing at NerdioCon is we're going to be launching this functionality. For now, what's available is everything but the mobile devices. Those are going to be available coming shortly. So for now, it's just deployment of Windows apps to Windows target devices. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at what this actually looks like in practice. So let's open up Nerdio Manager for MSP. I should have a tab right there. Okay, so here we have Nerdio Manager for MSP open. It's open at the MSP level. So you can see in my lab environment here, I have several different customer accounts listed. And you'll notice a new menu on the left side here called Applications. If I go to Applications, you will see by default all the applications which I've marked as favorite, although there are many, many other ones. So for example, you can search for any app across all repositories. So let's go ahead and search for Teams, right? So I'm searching for Teams across all repositories, and you can see which repository these individual matches come from, right? You can see who the vendor is, you can see the app ID, you can see how many different versions of Teams there are. And then if you want to, for instance, take the Microsoft Teams preview and make it a favorite app, you just simply click the star and now it becomes part of your default view. You can also click on the application to see more details. You can see that there are various versions of the application, many different versions, starting with 1.5 with all the various build numbers up to 1.6. You can see the different installers. And all of this is coming from the publicly available repositories. I didn't have to upload this Teams preview into anywhere. This is just available there for you. Someone else did the work, in this case, because Microsoft is the publisher, they did all of this work and uploaded these standard applications into here for you. Now, if I wanted something like, let's say, Adobe Reader, I can search for Adobe, and you'll notice that it's finding various Adobe products. You can see all the different products. So let's say here is Adobe Photoshop that's coming from the Microsoft Store. So this is going to be a Microsoft tested and validated version. You'll notice there's only one version of it because Microsoft only publishes the latest version in their store. But if I wanted to, let's say, get a different application, let's say like the Adobe Acrobat Reader, you can see that's part of the community repository right here. And there's actually 32 versions of it. So if I click on this, you'll notice I have a ton of different versions of Adobe Reader. And again, someone did all this work for me by putting the application into the repository, which in this case is the publisher, Adobe Systems. So I can find all my apps. I can favor the ones that I want to deploy. And once I do that, I will have a list of applications. Let's make it a little bit longer. Let's make it 25 items per page. And you can sort of see all the different apps that are available. What I can then do is I can take several of these apps. Okay, I can select multiple, do multi-select, and I can take a bulk action by assigning these apps, okay? And it's giving me a list of all the apps that I've selected, and I can then decide which of my customers do I want to make these applications available to. And I can choose to make them available to all my customers. I can choose to make them available to individual customers. So let's go ahead and assign 7-zip, 8x8 work, Adobe Creative Cloud, and Best Notes to my account number 2, which is called WinHeart. Okay, so I'm going ahead and click apply. This is going to assign my app, and it may have actually already been assigned, so I may have just unassigned it. Let's see. Oh, anyway, so I just assigned these applications to that particular, that particular account. So this is where the catalog comes in. This is where I, as the MSP, am going to see all of my apps, and I'll be able to manage them, determine which versions I want to make available to which customers. And then once they're assigned to individual customers, let's actually jump into the customer level here and open up my WinHeart account. And you'll see on WinHeart, I'll now have a new menu here as well called Applications. And under applications, I have a few more menus. So the first one is the unified catalog. The unified catalog is the catalog that that shows me all the apps that have been assigned to me by my MSP. So if I am, a customer IT admin and I'm managing my own environment, or if I am a technician within your MSP practice managing a specific customer, what you'll see at this level in this catalog are all the applications that have been assigned to this particular customer account. Now, what do we do with these applications once they have been assigned? Well, what you do with them is you deploy them, or you make them available, you upgrade them, whatever is appropriate. So let's go ahead and create a deployment of some of these apps. So let's take 7-zip. Let's take a few of these. Let's just make the page a little bit bigger. I'll take easy ones. Let's take Foxit, and what else? And let's do Notepad++, right? So I'm gonna select. Oops, I think I've unselected them. Selecting. Okay, 1 second. Sorry, 7-zip, Foxit. Yeah, there we go. And those 3 applications. And then I have a button at the bottom that tells me that I can deploy these applications. So I'm going to click on deploy. And what I can do is I can deploy them in one of 2 ways. I can either deploy them right now to whatever I decide to put in scope of this deployment, or I can actually create a new policy that's going to enforce this deployment on a recurring basis. So you'll see what that means in a second. So let's go ahead and create a policy. We'll call it Vadim deployment 01. You can give it the description, obviously. We'll click next. Here, we're going to see a list of applications that we've selected. You can choose the order in which you want these applications to be deployed as part of this policy. You can see the action that you want to take, whether you're going to be installing or uninstalling this particular app. And you also have the option to reboot after the install or uninstall. Obviously, delete these as well. And what you can do is you can add additional apps. So, I'm not limited to just the ones I've selected. Maybe I also want to install, let's say, Adobe Reader, the latest version. And look at this. This is pretty interesting. You get to choose which version of the app you want to load. And you can either install a specific version, or what's really powerful is if you're selecting to install the latest version, and the latest version is dynamic. So as a new version gets released, the scope of this policy will say that, hey, whoever has this application assigned with the latest version chosen is going to have that update automatically applied. So you can choose to either update applications automatically with zero manual effort, or you can choose to install specific versions and only update to the later version on a manual basis by modifying this deployment policy in the future. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to select our targets. Now, let's take a look at what the options are. We can deploy these applications to various AVD desktops. We can do personal AVD desktops. So let's go ahead and deploy it to, Angie accounting user. We can also add another scope and say, I want to deploy it to pooled host pools, and let's deploy it to a pool called AVD demo. And then I can also deploy it to individual servers. And these are servers that may be within my, my Azure environment that's being managed for this customer. So I can choose various servers to deploy to. These are, just server VMs that also support Windget. So it's not just Windows 10 and Windows 11 where this can be installed. Another option is to deploy to Intune. And this is really powerful because once you choose to deploy to Intune, any device that's managed with Intune can be used in the scope here. So you can say, deploy it to any user or any group, no matter what device they're on. Or you can say, deploy this to a specific user. I guess that user may not be registered, but let's choose you can deploy to any user or any group. So let's choose the VDI group, and you can choose which devices this should apply to. So you can filter by both device and user and groups. So in our example, I'm going to install this to a pool desktop, and let's choose AVD demo and click next. And then you have a few settings that you can fine tune as far as how this installation is actually going to proceed. So you can choose concurrency balancer. Concurrency balancer allows you to specify, hey, when this installation is happening, if you've chosen a very big scope, many host pools and many VMs, do you want to kind of balance it by running 10 jobs at a global level across all of your different targets, or do you want to narrow it down by specific host pool? So it just depends on the environment. Then what you can do is you can enforce a maintenance window, and the maintenance window will say that only do these installations during a certain period of time during the maintenance window. So if you don't want to disrupt your users, if maybe your application requires a restart at the end and you don't want this to happen during normal business hours, you can create a maintenance window, for example, 7 days a week, or maybe Monday through Friday, that's going to run between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. And that's the only time when this application install can happen. And then the third thing I want to show you here is drain mode. So for AVD, drain mode is a way to preventing new user sessions from coming in to this particular AVD session host. So enabling drain mode will allow that session host to go into drain mode and refuse or not take on any additional connections while this policy is being executed. So for now, I'm going to uncheck those options, click Save and Close. And what you'll see is I will now have a new application deployment policy, which is right here. That's the one we just created. You can see which applications are in the scope of that policy. There's 4 of them in our example. You can see the targets, which is that AVD demo host pool we've chosen. Last time it was executed, and then the final result, which currently hasn't yet been reported because it will take a few minutes. Now, let me clear this filter and show you what you actually can see here. So what you can see under your deployment policies are all the various policies that you've configured at this customer level to deploy applications. So again, imagine each of your customers has a certain baseline set of apps, Adobe Reader and Microsoft Office and QuickBooks or whatever the apps are. You can maintain those applications and the versions and the testing of those apps at the global MSP level, assign them to the appropriate customers. At the customer level, have a deployment policy that's active and is deploying those apps to the proper targets. Could be all users, could be just the accounting department group or the finance or the marketing group. And that's it. Every time you have a new version of the app, if you want to manually control that, you get it into your unified catalog at the MSP level, and all customers will automatically see that application installed in the proper devices for the proper users based on your configuration. As new users come on board and you add those users into your customer's environment, as long as they're within the right security groups to which applications have been assigned through these deployment policies, they will automatically see all the apps appear on their machines without any manual intervention whatsoever. It's fully automated all the way up from the MSP level down to an individual user's specific endpoint. The next thing I want to show you are the deployment status. So now that we've actually pushed these applications out, I want to see, okay, like what's actually happening? Is it successful? Is it running? Did it complete? And you can see that my new deployment policy that I just created is targeting 2 devices because those 2 VMs are part of the AVD demo host pool, which was my target. So if it had more session hosts, it will have more tasks listed here. You can see the task is currently running. You can see what's being installed. We don't have a status yet because it's still running and installing it. But for the other ones, if you look down below, for example, there is a Windget app policy that's installing a similar set of applications on the same set of machines. You can see that the ones that are in green say the policy action is satisfied, which means the policy expects to have this version of VLC media player, and in fact, that is what's installed on that machine. You can see that the policy expects this version to be installed, but a different version was detected, and it's actually, it looks like maybe it's the same version, so maybe there's just a different. Let's take a look here. Yeah, so it's actually detecting a newer version. So unless you force it to override, it's going to keep it in place. But that's alerting you that there's something that may need some attention. You can see the status of the policy saying that it's compliant. When was the last time the device was evaluated, etc. And this gets evaluated every 15 minutes. So within 15 minutes, any changes you make to your policies will get applied to all of the machines that are within the scope of the deployment policy. And you can see I have several different policies here that are kind of doing this deployment process. There's also MSIX app attached that you can implement with this. There's also certificates and other things that have to do with MSIX, but we're not going to go into those in detail right now. So again, what we've so far covered is the catalog of applications at MSP level. Those applications can be then assigned to individual customers or all customers. Those pop up in the unified catalog of the customer account. They get packaged together into a deployment policy, which specifies what to install and to whom to install this application to, known as a target. And then you have a page that monitors the status of the deployment and lets you drill in and understand the exact process of what's going on. And you can see the individual tasks that are running. You can click on details. It will tell you exactly what it's doing. And if it fails, if something fails, all the logs will be right at your fingertips, available right here. Now, let's expand the scope of this a little bit and go back out to the MSP level. And at the MSP level, let's go back to applications. So let's take a look at our repository. So in the demo environment that I have here, I have 3 repositories. 2 of them will be available out of the box by default in every deployment, and that's the Microsoft Store, which again has the first-party Microsoft applications and the latest version of any third-party application. There's the Windows package manage a community repository, which has thousands of applications and dozens of versions of each that's maintained for you by the publisher. However, you can also see I have a private repository, and the private repository is a Windget repository in my environment as an MSP, that I can put my own custom apps into as I am working and managing my customers. So let's take a look at what that looks like. We go under settings and we take a look under integrations. You'll notice there's a new tile called Unified Application Management. And under Unified Application Management, I have those three repositories that you saw on the previous page. I have my community repository, my store, and a private repo. And I have two actions I can take. I can either link to an existing Windget repository that has been created manually by someone. It's quite a bit of a pain to do so manually. It requires a lot of scripting and a lot of components to be built together. You know, it's some people take many hours to figure out exactly how to create a Windget repository. But if you already have one, you can just link it easily by providing its display name, its location, and if it's got authentication enabled, the auth key. However, you can also add a new Windget private repository by using this button right there. You simply give it a name, you select which resource group in your Azure environment you want this in, you select the region, and remember, repositories in this context will contain both the manifest as well as a location for you to upload the binary file. So kind of keep that in mind, if the binaries are in one region and the desktops are somewhere else. For most applications, that doesn't matter, but if you have some latency for installation considerations, then the region can be an important thing to control where you put it. Then the way that a Windget repository works is it has a app service associated with a database, and you can either use an existing app service plan that may already be running in your environment, or you can create a new app service plan. You can then choose or create a new storage account. And a new storage account is where the binaries are going to be stored. So you'll be able to upload your executables and MSI files to this location, or use an existing one if you have one already. You can then choose a log analytics workspace, either create a new one or use an existing one. This is where all the logging will happen. Here is where you provide resource names. These are the prefixes of the names. It will append them with a unique identifier. But if you have a certain naming convention that you want all your Azure resources to be named with, you can modify them here. And you'll be able to see a list of all the resources that are required to make a Windget repository work. You need an app service plan, storage account, a key vault, a Cosmos DB account, a web app, App Insights, and Log Analytics. So there's lots of different pieces that if you were doing this manually would be quite a bit of a pain. But Nerdio lets you do this super easily. You just go through this screen, you select where you want it created, give it a name, and click OK. And that creates the entire architecture for you to have your own private Windget repository in your Azure environment. Once it's created, it looks like this. Again, you can see the URL to it. You can have authentication if you want. You can see the name of various resources that were deployed and the display name of that repo. Now, once you have the repo, okay, what do you do with it? Why did I just go through this long explanation of creating your own private repository? Well, the reason for this is because having a private repository allows you to then take your own apps and upload them and only make them available to certain customers. So how does that look? So now that I go back into my applications page, I have a button on the bottom called Import Applications. When importing applications, the list of repositories is going to be just the private ones. So those are the only read-write repositories I have in my environment. I obviously can't add anything to the Microsoft Store, and I can't add anything to the community repository. So I'm going to select my private repo. You give it a package name, packaged version. You give it a locale based on what's available. Give it a name. I'll just do for sure Vadim, license, whatever. You can specify all that information. Let's see, what am I missing? What am I missing? Package version probably need. What?
You have to fill out the rest of the installer, the tabs on the left.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, I thought that was going to be a next button, but you're right. So the next page is going to be uploading my file. So I have two sources that I can add a private application from. I can upload it as a file just from my browser, or I can point at an existing URL. So if this is an application that's already accessible publicly somewhere else, you can do so as well. You can select the scope of the app, whether it's installs in the machine context, the user context, again, locale, various codes, install switches, silent install, various information that you need in order to deploy this application. And then once you save it, it will be part of your catalog, and we can search for those. So let's filter to the private repo, and you can see I have several applications that were uploaded to this private repository are in my catalog. I can click on them to view the properties. You can see these apps. You can see the various installers that are available and the versions that are available. And if you have a new version of the application, what you can do is you can go ahead and click import, and this will allow you to import a new version of the application. So let's go here and let's see. Sorry, we go to manage. Under the manage page, we see the versions of this app, and you can add a version of the app. So you sort of have to fill out a similar set of parameters, which are pre-filled for you, except you're going to give this a newer version. So let's say it will be 1.32.0. It will then become what's labeled as the latest. And any policies using this application that are calling for a latest version of the app to be installed will automatically trigger within 15 minutes or within the maintenance window that you specify, and will install this application for you. So again, super easy to manage, very flexible and powerful from an automation perspective to deploy initially, as well as update applications for all of your customers on an ongoing basis. So let me pause here. I haven't been watching the chat. Tony, is there anything there that we need to address? I'm sure you've been keeping up
I've
with
been
it.
answering them.
Perfect.
Oh, the results of who had the most updated packages. I saw somebody who had
Yes.
43.
43. Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let me pause here and see if there are any questions, kind of conceptually or more specifically about what this is, how it works, what it can do, and whether you sort of see and share in our vision of how application deployment and management can be made easier and more automated with all native tools without any third-party agents. Questions, comments, thoughts? Okay, let me switch back to my slides then.
Well, how does licensing work? Talk about that.
How does licensing work? So licensing for this feature is really part of, and I'm assuming, Tony, that means licensing for application management from Nerdio?
Yep.
Yeah. So licensing is part of the Nerdio Manager for MSP product. It's a built-in feature of NMM. It doesn't require anything third-party, so there's no third-party licenses you have to buy. It uses all the community sources for applications or allows you to create your own. So there's really no additional cost to you for this pretty awesome functionality that I think is going to really make the life of a lot of MSPs managing lots of customers, especially if they're smaller customers and you don't want to maintain a dedicated repository for each and every 5-10 user deployment. This will allow you to do so centrally at the MSP level, assign the apps the way you see fit, and then be able to deploy those applications automatically in an easy way. Okay. Do you? It looks like some people here feel that this is useful and is going to provide value. So that's good feedback. Thank you. We're very excited to announce and launch this at NerdioCon. And speaking of NerdioCon and other Nerdio events, wanted to mention that this feature is currently in preview, so it is available for you to play with. If you are using Nerdio Manager for MSP already, and you want to get into our private preview until NerdioCon in the middle of next month of February, email or reach out to your sales rep and provide them with the install ID of your NMM instance, and we're able to enable this feature for you so you can start playing around and experiencing it in private preview, but it is going to be launching into public preview in just about a month. Now, the nice thing is that this is included not just with the AVD license of NMM that allows you to manage AVD users, but also we have an Intune SKU, an Intune license, which allows you to manage, non-virtual desktop environments, physical machines, and cloud PCs, etc., or physical machines more precisely. It is included there as well. So this is not just for virtual machines. This is not just AVD only. This is not Windows 365 only. This is designed to be delivering apps across all devices, including physical devices that are Intune managed in your customers' environments. Okay. Perfect. The next thing I wanted to just bring up is our expanded, and Tony or Natasha, do you guys want to jump in and give a quick overview of the training camps? Because you know this information better than I do.
Tasha, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No?
Absolutely. Yep. Sorry.
Go
I was
for it.
unmuting myself. So we have announced our 2024 Nerdio training camp schedule. So everyone scan the QR code here and it'll take you to the registration page. We have, as you can see, added a lot of locations this year. So hopefully, if you are in the US, we're coming to a city near you. If you are outside of the US, we'll be releasing, or outside of North America, I should say, we will be releasing our international training camp schedule very soon. So be on the lookout for that. The structure will remain the same. This will be a 2-day event. The first day will focus more on the sales side. The second day will be a deep technical hands-on lab day. We're really excited about the content and all of these new features that we can walk you through this year. We're also adding advanced training camps. Tony, do you want to talk a little bit about the content for those advanced sessions?
Yeah, the advanced training camps are designed for MSPs that have, quite a few customers with us who already understand the basics, who maybe have attended our foundational training camps and want more out of it. They're going to be a lot less frequency, as you can imagine. But yeah, those are people who are interested in that. Reach out to your sales reps, and we can get you into one of those.
Yep. And when you go to the landing page or the website for the training camps, you can see which ones will have an advanced component as well. So please reach out to us and we can get you approved to attend the advanced one. And we encourage you to send as many people as you can to our Nerdio training camps. They remain free for partners and non-Nerdio partners. We just want to get you there and make sure you can spend a couple days with us and learn a lot.
Awesome. And then last but not least, Natasha, I'll let you take this one as well.
Oh, excellent. We are so excited. NerdioCon 2024 is right around the corner. We have got an amazing few days planned in Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic this year. There's going to be tons of sessions, just like what Vadim just did for you guys, so you can really get hands-on and learn all about the product and the technology. There's going to be a business leader track as well. So if you want to get into the weeds on some of the sales components of building a cloud practice, that will be there. We've got Microsoft executives, lots of really great sponsors, and I think a little bit of fun planned over the course of the couple of days. So we're really excited. I'm sure many of you are already registered. Just as a little inside scoop, since you guys are spending some time with us here, we will be closing registration very soon for NerdioCon. The interest has been unreal this year, so we are very, very, very close to being full. So if you are not registered, please reach out to me so we can try and sneak you in. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing everyone in Punta Cana.
Awesome. Thank you, Natasha. And I am done with 10 minutes to spare, which is pretty unusual. So I think this may be a first. But we're here so we can take your questions. Tony, if there's any other functionality that you think is worthwhile showing, that you want me to show, or you want to take over the screen share and show. So we've got 10 minutes if anyone's interested to dig deeper into the unified app management, or have any other questions about training camps or NerdioCon. We're here to answer those and have that discussion.
Yes, I'm going to ask a couple of questions that I know people are thinking about, or maybe haven't asked yet, that could be interesting. So what's the future look like for unified apps on iOS, Android, Mac machines? Can you give us a little insight into that?
Yes, I mean we're currently, our philosophy is try to optimize the application delivery process using kind of native, already available technology that all of your customers are already using and paying for, at least paying for. Not everyone's using Intune, but in this case it means Intune specifically. So I think as more and more capabilities come to Intune, we're going to be enabling those. Mobile app deployment is something that's a focus area for the Intune engineering team, and that's going to be something that we'll be enabling through our tools and technology as well. So expect to see some of those capabilities being lit up in the near future.
And then I wanted to share that this is these features that Vadim showed today isn't only available for things in Azure, right? The whole point of this is to manage applications across all types of endpoints, as long as they're Intune enrolled or joined. So yeah, that's the
right.
Any questions?
Yeah, just to reiterate, this is great for virtual desktops. It will do everything for your virtual desktops, but it's really much bigger and broader than that. It's really about managing your physical desktops, which all customers have. As long as it's Intune managed, you can deliver and monitor apps on those devices, as well as all the other capabilities of NMM in the Intune realm. And stay tuned for more exciting announcements at NerdioCon on this topic.
And then we have 2 more webinars coming, one in February and one in March. Just if you guys want to join those as well, we're going to be advertising those soon. They're going to be around the topics of managing Intune policies and vendor policies. We're going to wrap Nerdio around the management of all of Intune, as well as Microsoft Defender for Business, or Defender for Endpoint. So that's coming in next month, as well as in March. So I'll watch out for those.
Awesome. Any questions? Any last minute things? If not, we'll give you 6 minutes of your time back. It's a Thursday, so I'm sure everyone will welcome that. And let's give it a few more seconds. Oh, I do see a hand up, a couple of hands up. No? Okay, maybe not. All right, thanks everyone for spending the hour or 55 minutes with us this morning. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing all of you who are already registered for NerdioCon in just a few weeks. For those of you who are not, go ahead and register quick. As Natasha said, this is not going to last very long from a registration perspective, and we're excited to see you soon. Be well. Take care.
Bye, everyone.